Welcome to Serenity Rising Healing with Cancer. I'm Bron and I want to welcome you to not just a podcast, but to a community. A new way of seeing, feeling and walking through the chaos of cancer. Hello and welcome to Serenity Rising. I'm so glad you're here today. I've been turning this over in my mind for the last week or so, and I think it's going to land somewhere familiar for many of you. I came across something a very well-known author and presenter wrote recently. He was writing about the question we do not ask often enough, which is, once you have built a life from intention, how do you protect your peace? He talked about a kind of stress that I think most of us know intimately, but rarely have language for, the low-level uneasiness that hums beneath the surface of an otherwise healing life, the feeling that something could go wrong at any minute. Does it sound familiar? For me, it's literally the uneasiness of living through cancer. But let's keep going. That uncertainty. That kind of stress is sneaky, he said, because it does not announce itself. It just slowly drains the energy you were saving for the things that actually matter to you. I read what he said a good few times. I did some research, and even though it works differently for people living through chronic disease or cancer, it's still something very important to think about and to talk about. And I also realised that this is a piece we need to highlight here at Serenity. We talk often about the inner work, about energy, about intention, about presence. But we do not always talk about the outer work, the protective work, the quiet, deliberate effort of safeguarding the peace that we are building every single day, even in a total shit show environment. So today, that is what we're going to do. We're going to look at both layers, the inner work of living with intention and the outer work of protecting what that intention is building. And we're going to do it in a way that we always do it here at Serenity, with science and soul, with evidence and perspective, and my own story woven through it, because I can't really teach what I'm saying until I've learnt it. You know what I mean? I want to start with something that I've come to understand the hard way twice. There is a phrase in the research literature called allostatic load. And I know that sounds like a clinical term, but stay with me here because what it describes is something you already know in your body. Allostatic load is the cumulative wear and tear that builds up in the body when we are exposed to chronic stress over long periods of time, even at low levels. It is the body keeping a quiet ledger. Do you know the book, The Body is Keeping the Score? And that's from every demand we put on it, every difficult conversation, every sleepless night, every decision we make under pressure, every emotional weight we carry without putting it down. The body adapts and adapts and adapts. And for a while it manages beautifully, but eventually the cost of that adaptation does begin to show up. Researchers have found that this accumulated load is associated with elevated risks of cardiovascular disease, immune dysfunction, cancer, autoimmune disease, and accelerated cellular aging. So this is not a soft idea, guys. This is a measurable physiological state, and it is what so many of us call here in the Serenity community. It's what we're carrying without even realising the cost. Here's the thing, though, about allostatic load that I find most interesting. It's not caused by big, dramatic events alone. It's caused often more powerfully by the steady drip of low-grade stress that we stop noticing because we've lived with it for so long. When I think of this, I think of it like a dripping tap. The humming uneasiness is not a vague feeling. It's your body telling you the truth about what you're carrying. I know this because I've lived two completely different versions of it. In 2017, when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, I went into full performance mode. I had 6 days between diagnosis and the operating table, and I made a decision just to keep going. I kept running my business through chemotherapy. I got on a live call 4 hours after one of my treatments. Bald, sitting up straight, smiling, eyebrows painted on. Couldn't even do that properly because I'd said I would deliver what I said I was going to deliver. And back then I told myself that was strength. I told myself this was commitment. And the truth was, I was carrying an allostatic load that nobody could sustain, and I was completely unwilling to listen to what my body was trying to tell me until I couldn't. And then on the 23rd of February 2023, and I'm sitting in another doctor's room, and I heard the words for a second time, "You have cancer, multiple myeloma, incurable, chronic, lifetime management. A stem cell transplant on the horizon, chemo starting the next week." And it was during those months that I understood something that I had not been ready or willing or even knew how to understand the first time, that my body had been keeping a ledger the whole time. And the only thing I could do, the only thing that was actually mine to do right then, was to start listening. So this is where the intention comes in. And I want to be careful about this word. Why? Because intention has been done to death. It's been used and overused in the ways that it made it sound like wishful thinking. That is not what I'm talking about. The research on intention, particularly when it is connected to a clear sense of purpose, is actually really, really powerful. A large study from the team over at Harvard University found that people with a strong sense of purpose in life were more likely to engage in health-promoting behaviours, less likely to experience depression, and showed protective effects across their cardiovascular and inflammatory markers. Now, another study published in 2024 found that when patients linked their life goals to their health goals, the intention to follow through on lasting lifestyle change was significantly stronger. Intention is not a soft idea. It is a measurable predictor of follow through, and it works best when it's tied with what genuinely matters to you. For me, that's my path of healing, no matter what life throws at me. But here's what I have learned, and what the research on acceptance and commitment therapy backs up so beautifully. Living with intention is not about controlling experience. It's about changing your relationship with what's going on. Years ago, I had someone who kept saying to me, "You've just got to let it go, Bron. You've just got to let it go." And it caused me so much stress and trauma because I didn't know what it meant. If I didn't know how to let go. Don't you think I would have let go if I could have? Nowadays, when I hear the words "let it go," all I can have is the song Frozen playing in my head. But anyway, bringing it back here. What I do know is this. We've just got to let it be. Don't try to fix things. Find answers to questions when there aren't any. As John Lennon from the Beatles sang so many years ago, "When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she's standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be." I know you've been singing along with me, so have I. Anyway, as I always say, replace the word Mother Mary with whoever you believe in: God, universe, source, Dennis. So 2 very famous songs, 2 ways of looking at things, and they nailed it, guys. There's a body of research from the past 5 years that have actually been studying this exact things, specifically in cancer. They've found that it improves quality of life and psychological flexibility while reducing depression, anxiety, and psychological distress. The key insight is that healing is not about eliminating the difficult thoughts and the feelings that come with illness. It's about learning to hold them differently so that the energy you were spending on resisting them becomes available for living. Now, this is what I mean when I say living with intention. That's the inner work. It's the daily, quiet practice of meeting your experience without fighting it. And I know how that feels, people. It is choosing what to give your energy to and what to release. It's becoming the CEO of your ecosystem, of your body, and making the decisions only you can make about what serves you and what doesn't. It's the permission giving. It's not prescriptive, because there is no one right way to do this work. There's only your way and your capacity and your compass. And this is where the yin to the yang becomes so important here. Because the truth is, I had to learn this and it took me a long time to learn it. So doing the inner work is part of it, but it's not all of it. You can be the most intentional person in the world. You can be deeply committed to your healing. You can have done all the reflection and all the recalibration, and you'll still find yourself depleted, exhausted, and humming with that low-level uneasiness if you've not also done the outer work. Because the inner work builds the peace, the outer world protects it. I just want you to encourage you that we do the best we can with what we have in the moment. So please just see this as something to think about. Safeguarding your space is not only about what is happening inside you, it is also about removing obstacles that create worry without you even realizing it. And when I read that, I thought immediately of the research on burnout and boundaries, which has expanded so much in recent years. Now, the World Health Organization defines burnout as the result of chronic stress that is not being managed. And the most consistent finding across the literature is that clear, flexible boundaries are not selfish. They are a documented form of self-care. And here I was over the past 10 years or more thinking that self-care was a luxury when in fact it's part of healing. How did I miss that? I don't know, but here we are. Now, more research has confirmed what many of us already feel intuitively, that flexible personal boundaries are the healthiest and most adaptive form of boundaries, because boundaries are not walls. They are invitations to honour what you actually have to give. And then, of course, we can then keep going and looking at the decision fatigue, which I think every person living with illness should have access to, because the science here is that every decision you make uses up a small amount of your cognitive and emotional energy. You may recall in season 1, episode 2, I spoke with Joe Muirhead about talking about the spoon theory. I'll put the link in the show notes for you to check it out, because the spoon theory was created by Christine Miserandino. She explains what it's like to live with limited energy. Now, I want you to think of each spoon as a unit of energy, because everything we do requires a spoon. And as the day wears on, as the decisions start to accumulate, your capacity to make good choices, to regulate your emotions, to be where your feet are, all cost energy, aka spoons. So if it's a low energy day and there's not that many spoons available, things can go to the wall pretty quickly. Know what I mean? You become more impulsive, you'll become more risk adverse, and sometimes more likely to choose the easy option rather than the right option. And that, my friends, of course, affects the path of healing. I know this well. For people living through cancer or chronic illness, where every day already includes the treatment decisions, family logistics, work, finances, and the small decisions of daily life, this all matters enormously. Because we need to simplify choices by delegating where you can, protecting your reflective capacity for what matters, because they are not luxuries. They are simple, clear, and dare I say it, clinical strategies. Yep, truth. And the research that means the most to me personally is the work around what we call energy conservation in cancer. It backs it all up, but it uses the survivorship umbrella, and that word I'll have to discuss another day, because it depends if you're in the curable or the incurable lane, is depending how survivorship plays out. And there needs to be a lot more work done in that space, in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. I come back. What this research found were 3 pillars, or what they call foundations, that are essential. They were energy conservation alongside physical activity and mind-body practices as the 3 foundations of evidence-based fatigue management. Now, we all know this because we're living it, right? The principle behind all of this is that you save your energy for what matters most. You schedule the things that require presence and decision-making for the times when you have the most capacity. And then you delegate, you pace, you prioritize, and you stop apologizing for not being able to do it all anymore. Now, that's not laziness. And this strategy is backed up by the science and soul because it's where the evidence and perspective meet. So what does the outer work actually look like in real life? The safeguarding of all this hard-won peace. It sounds quite complicated, and I think on my down days I would struggle. But we want to keep going. We want to bed this into our minds because what it'll give you is great information to start thinking about how you can bring this into your life one little tiny step at a time. For me, it's looked like several things. I want you to know that this is ongoing work. This is not a destination. I hate to say it, here it goes. It's the journey. So for me, it looked like minimizing some relationships that I had been carrying out of habit rather than out of love. Paul, my husband, calls these type of people energy suckers. We want to hang around the energy givers. Now, I'm not being rude here, people. I'm doing what needs to be done on my path of healing, not anyone else's path, just my path, my serenity. It has looked like saying no to opportunities that would have been good for the business, but would have cost me something that I was not able to give or worse, deliver. It's looked like protecting my mornings fiercely because that's when I have the most capacity or the most energy. And we want to use that for the work that I do want to do, whether it be here in my office or outside with the doggies. It has looked like delegating things that I used to insist on doing myself because the truth is the team can run the operational side of what we do here, of which I am forever grateful to these amazing humans. But my presence in the community itself, that is the part that can't be delegated. It has looked like turning off notifications, leaving group chats, removing apps, pulling back from spaces and groups in my local area that were costing me more than they were giving me. None of it was dramatic, by the way. None of it makes for a good post on social media, but it is the work that has kept me well enough to keep doing the work that matters. And I want to say something specifically to those of you who are in the carer role, because I know this work is even harder for you. When you are looking after someone you love, the obstacles that drain you do not always feel like obstacles. They can feel like obligations. They can feel like love. And the research on carer burden is very clear. The people in this role are at significantly elevated risk of depression, anxiety, and physical illness themselves. Safeguarding your peace as a carer is not selfish. It is the only way you stay well enough to keep showing up. Remember when you're sitting on the plane and they're going through the emergency notes? You put your own oxygen mask on first before you help others. Paul and I had a conversation a few months ago and he told me he was tired, really tired. Not because of me, but because of the toll of the last years on him, on me and our family. He wanted to make a financial decision about something. Now, the old Bron would have put her 2 cents worth in and might not necessarily have agreed. But what I did do this time was I supported whatever that decision looked like, because this is a way I can support Paul when he needs it the most. Because sometimes it's not the words that are said, but the ones that are not said. Okay, a Serenity Now moment for this week, so let's do this. I have 3 questions for you, and I want you to know right now, these are not designed to be comfortable. They are designed to be honest. You can sit with them in your journal. You can sit with them in your car. You can sit with them with a friend over a cup of coffee. Like always, there is no right way and there is no rush on these things. So just copy them out of the transcript or send us a message and we'll send them to you. The first question is this. What is humming under the surface of my life right now that I have not been letting myself name? Not the big, obvious stressor, but the quiet one. The one you've been carrying for so long you stopped noticing it was there. The second question is this. Who or what is asking for energy I do not actually have to give right now? Be honest, even if the answer is uncomfortable, particularly if the answer is uncomfortable. And the third question, What is one small thing I could remove from this week? One obligation, one appointment, one commitment that would not be missed. Not the things you can't remove, the things you've been telling yourself you can't remove, but probably can. Now that's it. 3 questions. You do not have to act on the answers right away. Just notice what comes up. Sometimes the noticing is the whole point. So here's where I want to leave you today. Living with intention is the inner work. Safeguarding your peace is the outer work. You need both, because one without the other will leave you exhausted in a way that no amount of rest will ever fix. The peace you're building deserves to be protected. The energy you have left deserves to be spent on what matters. The capacity you have today is the compass for what is possible today, and that is enough. If this conversation resonated with you, I would love for you to come and find out about us at the Serenity Project. This is exactly the kind of work we do together, gently and steadily, with people who understand what it is to be living through something hard while still wanting to live full out. The link is in the show notes, and the best place to start is with our regular newsletter. Thank you for being here, for listening, for letting me sit with you for this time. Now just remember, make every moment matter, because moments make memories, so let's make every day count. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great having you here. And what I would love you to do is leave a comment or ask a question using my fan link below this episode and on every episode that we post. I would love to hear your thoughts, your questions, and I'll get back to you. Have a great day and bye for now.